Some changes begin quietly without warning, like a breath you do not notice until your chest feels different. For Aylin, life had become a smooth line of repeated days. She woke early, dressed carefully, and moved through her hours with purpose, but no excitement. Her relationship was steady and familiar, built on years of shared routines. People around her said she was lucky. She believed them, even when something inside her stayed restless. She told herself that comfort was enough, that wanting more was childish, that adults learned how to silence small questions before they became problems. Her days were full, yet oddly empty. She worked, smiled, listened, and nodded at the right moments. She knew what was expected of her and followed it well. At night, she lay awake sometimes, staring at the ceiling, feeling like she was waiting for something unnamed. She never said this out loud. She was not unhappy. That was the strange part. Nothing was wrong, yet nothing felt alive either. Life moved forward, but her heart stayed still. Everything shifted on a normal morning when a new name appeared on the office board. Rayan? No special announcement. No attention. Just another person joining the team. Aylin noticed him only because he was quiet. In a place filled with noise and forced cheer, his calm stood out. He observed more than he spoke. When he smiled, it was small and real, not practiced, she told herself. It meant nothing. People came and went all the time. Their first conversation was brief. A greeting, a polite exchange about work. His voice was low and steady, and when he listened, he truly listened. Aylin felt slightly off balance afterward, like she had forgotten a word she once knew. She brushed it away and returned to her tasks, but her focus slipped. She found herself replaying the moment, wondering why such a small interaction stayed with her. Over the next few days, they crossed paths often. In hallways, near the coffee machine, during meetings. Nothing personal passed between them, yet something invisible seemed to grow. Rayan never asked questions that crossed lines, but when he spoke, his words carried weight. He spoke about ideas, not people. About how small choices shape a life. About how silence can mean many things. Aylin listened more than she talked, surprised by how easy it felt to be quiet with him. She started noticing details she had ignored before. The way Rayan paused before answering, as if choosing honesty over speed. The way he never tried to impress anyone. The way his eyes seemed tired but alert, like someone who had seen disappointment and learned from it. She felt drawn to that calm, and the feeling confused her. She had not felt drawn to anything new in a long time. At home, everything stayed the same. Her partner spoke about plans, about future steps, about practical things. Aylin nodded and agreed, but her responses felt delayed, like her heart was walking behind her words. She hated herself for that. She pushed the feeling down and reminded herself of loyalty, of history, of promises made in easier times. She told herself attraction was meaningless, that it would pass if ignored, but ignoring it did not make it weaker. It made it sharper. 1. Afternoon, the office lost power and work paused. People gathered near windows, talking and laughing. Aylin stood apart, unsure where to go, when Rayan approached her. He did not smile right away. He looked thoughtful. Strange how silence makes people uncomfortable, he said. Aylin laughed softly. Or honest. He looked at her then, really looked as if surprised by her answer. Yes, he said, that too. They talked longer that day, about small things at first, about books, about places they missed, about moments that stayed. In memory, without clear reason, Aylin felt time move faster and slower at once. She did not feel judged or watched. She felt understood, and that feeling scared her. It had been so long since anyone tried to understand her without needing something in return. When the power returned, he went back to work, but something had already shifted. Aylin carried the conversation with her like a secret. She noticed how her chest felt lighter, then heavier with guilt. She had done nothing wrong, yet she felt as if she had crossed an invisible boundary. That night she could not sleep. Thoughts moved quickly, chasing each other. She asked herself questions she had avoided for years. Was she truly content, or just used to her life? When had she last felt curious about someone? When had she last felt curious about herself? These questions did not accuse her. They waited patiently, and that made them harder to escape. In the days that followed, Aylin tried to create distance. She limited conversations. She focused on work. She reminded herself of her commitments. But life seemed to pull them into the same spaces. Each shared moment felt charged, even when nothing happened. Rayan never pushed. He never made his presence feel heavy. That made everything more intense. His restraint felt like respect, and respect can feel dangerously close too. Intimacy. One evening, after a long meeting, they left the building at the same time. The air was cool, and the sky was darkening. They walked side by side without planning to. For a while, they said nothing. "You seem tired," Rayan said finally. Aylin smiled without humor. "I think I've been tired for a long time." He nodded, as if he understood exactly what she meant. "Sometimes we don't notice until someone new shows us a mirror." His words landed deep. Aylin stopped walking. She felt exposed, as if he had named something she had not dared to admit, even to herself. She wanted to speak, to explain, to deny. Instead, she stayed silent. Rayan noticed and stopped too. He did not step closer. He did not reach out. He simply waited. "I should go," Aylin said, her voice unsteady. "Of course," he replied gently. She walked away quickly, her heart racing. She knew then that she was standing at the edge of something important. Not a scandal. Not a secret affair. Something quieter and more dangerous. Awareness. At home. Familiar walls closed around her. Her partner spoke, unaware of the storm inside her. Aylin responded automatically, but her mind stayed elsewhere. She felt ashamed of her thoughts and angry at herself for feeling trapped by them. She wished for a clear right and wrong, but life had given her a gray space instead. That night, she stood by the window, watching lights in other homes. She wondered how many people were living lives that looked complete from the outside, while something inside them waited for change. She wondered if wanting more meant being ungrateful. She wondered if ignoring her heart was a form of honesty or fear. Rayan did not message her. He did not appear where he was not meant to be. His absence was as respectful as his presence. That made her miss him more. She realized then that this was not about romance or excitement. It was about being seen after years of feeling invisible, even to herself. The next morning, Aylin woke with a sense of urgency. Not panic, but clarity. She did not know what she would do, only that pretending nothing had changed was no longer possible. Something inside her had shifted, and it would not move back into place as she prepared for the day. She looked at herself in the mirror. She saw someone familiar, yet different. Someone standing at the beginning of a choice she had not planned. She took a deep breath, knowing that whatever came next would change her life in ways she could not yet understand. And somewhere between duty and desire, between silence and truth, Aylin stepped into a future that had already begun to pull her forward. The line did not disappear all at once. Faded slowly, like a mark rubbed away by careful hands. Aylin felt it each day, thinning between what was allowed and what was true. She tried to move as before, speak as before, love as before, but the rhythm no longer fit her steps. Her thoughts moved faster than her actions, and her heart stayed awake even when her body was tired at work. She and Rayan kept distance without planning it. They were polite, professional, and careful. Yet, the air between them carried weight. Every glance felt intentional. Every silence spoke louder than words. Aylin noticed how easily she read his moods now, how a small shift in his face told her more than long talks ever could. That closeness frightened her. It felt earned, not rushed. and that made it harder to ignore. She tried to pour herself back into her relationship at home. She listened more closely, smiled longer, agreed faster. She told herself that effort would fix everything, but effort without feeling felt like acting. She caught herself watching her partner speak, realizing she no longer wondered what he was, thinking the mystery was gone. Comfort had replaced curiosity, and she did not know when that exchange had happened. Guilt followed her everywhere. It sat with her during meals. It waited beside her bed at night. She had not betrayed anyone, yet she felt dishonest. She hated that feeling. She had always believed loyalty meant staying, choosing again even when it was hard. She wondered, if loyalty could exist without truth, Rayon never asked her to explain herself. He never pushed for more time or deeper talks. When they did speak, it was brief but intense. Once during a break, he asked her how she was really doing. His question was simple, but it shook her. No one had asked her that in years without expecting. A short answer, "I'm fine," she said, out of habit. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "If that ever changes," he said, "you don't have to carry it alone." That was all. No promise, no invitation, just space. Aylin carried those words with her like a fragile object, afraid she might drop it. As days passed, her inner world grew louder. She noticed how often she had chosen safety over honesty in her life. How many times she had said yes when she meant maybe, and maybe when she meant no. Rayan had not created this awareness. He had simply uncovered it one evening. The office hosted a small gathering. Music played softly, and people talked in groups. Aylin stayed near the edge, watching laughter pass between faces. Rayan stood across the room, speaking to someone else. Their eyes met briefly, then looked away. That single moment carried more emotion than weeks of routine. Later, they found themselves standing near the same window. The city lights blurred into soft shapes beyond the glass. Do you ever feel like you're living the life you planned, but not the life you want? Rayan asked quietly. Aylin's heart beat faster. She could have laughed it off. She could have changed the subject. Instead, she spoke the truth. "Yes," she said. Every day, he did not smile. He did not move closer. He only nodded as if he had been waiting for that answer. "That feeling doesn't go away," he said. "It only waits." The honesty between them felt heavy and beautiful at the same time. Aylin realized then that this connection was not an escape. It was a mirror. And mirrors do not lie. That night, she lay awake, staring at the dark. She imagined two paths in front of her. One was familiar, steady, and quiet. The other was unclear and frightening, but alive. She did not know where either would lead. She only knew she could not keep pretending the choice did not exist. Her partner noticed her distance. He asked if she was tired, if work was stressful. She said yes, because it was easier than saying she was changing. She did not want to hurt him. She did not want to be the reason someone else felt lost. But she also knew that staying silent would slowly turn her into someone she did not recognize. The pressure built quietly. Small moments became heavy. Ordinary conversations felt strained. She realized she had stopped sharing her inner thoughts. At home, not because they were unimportant, but because she no longer felt heard. That realization hurt more than any argument could have. Rayhan sensed her struggle without knowing details. One afternoon, as they walked out of the building together, Aylin suddenly stopped. Her chest felt tight, and her breath caught. "I don't know what I'm doing," she said before she could stop herself. Rayan turned to her, concern in his eyes. He stayed where he was, giving her space. "You don't have to know right now," he said. "Just don't lie to yourself." Tears filled her eyes, surprising her. She looked away quickly. "I'm afraid," she admitted, "of hurting others." He asked softly. "Of hurting everyone," she replied. Rayan was quiet for a long moment. "Sometimes," he said, "truth hurts less than time." That sentence followed her home like an echo. She understood then that avoiding pain was still a choice, and sometimes it was the most painful one of all. Days later, Aylin asked for a walk with her partner. The sky was gray and the air felt heavy. Her heart pounded as she spoke. She did not blame, she did not accuse. She spoke about herself, about feeling lost, about needing honesty, about not knowing who she was becoming, but knowing she could not stay silent anymore. The conversation was long and difficult. There were tears, confusion, and quiet anger. No one won. No one lost. When it ended, Aylin felt exhausted and strangely clear. Something had broken, but something false had ended too. She spent that night alone. The silence felt different this time. It was not empty. It was honest. At work, Rayon noticed the change in her immediately. She looked lighter, but also fragile. He did not ask questions. He did not assume anything. He simply stayed present. Weeks passed. Aylin learned what it meant to stand on her own again. She missed familiarity. She missed comfort. But she did not miss pretending. Each day felt uncertain, but real. One evening, she and Rayan sat on a bench after work, watching people pass by. The world moved around them, busy and unaware. "I don't know what happens next," Elaine said. Rayan looked at her, his expression gentle. "Neither do I," he said. "But whatever it is, it should be chosen, not avoided." Their hands rested close but did not touch. The space between them felt full, not empty. Aylin realized then that crossing a line was not always about physical closeness. Sometimes it was about choosing truth over fear. As the sky darkened, she felt both loss and hope settle inside her. She did not know where this connection would lead, or if it would lead anywhere at all. She only knew that the life she once accepted, without question, had changed forever. And once the line had faded, there was no way to redraw it the same way again. The ending did not arrive with noise or drama. It came quietly, like most truths do, and settled into Aylin's life with steady weight. After the choice was made, there was no sudden relief, only space. Space to breathe, space to feel. Space to face the parts of herself she had ignored for too long. Living alone again felt strange at first. The silence was sharp, especially at night. There were moments when doubt crept in, whispering that comfort had been easier, that loneliness was a price too high. But each morning, Aylin woke with a calm she had not felt in years. It was not happiness yet, it was honesty. And that felt strong enough to stand on. Work changed too. People treated her the same, but she moved differently through her days. She spoke with intention. She listened with care. She no longer rushed through hours just to reach the end. Rayon noticed the shift immediately. There was clarity in her eyes now, even when sadness passed through them. They did not rush into anything. They talked more but carefully. Their words were open but measured. They both understood the cost of confusion and did not want to repeat it. What grew between them was not excitement alone. It was respect, patience, and shared understanding. One evening, as they walked through a quiet street, Aylin spoke about her fears, about wondering if she had destroyed something that could never be rebuilt, about worrying she had mistaken change for courage. Rayon listened, hands in his pockets, eyes forward. "Change doesn't mean every ending was wrong," he said. "It just means you've stopped ignoring yourself." Those words stayed with her. She realized she had been afraid of being judged more than being unhappy. Now that fear had less power over her. Time moved forward, uneven but steady. Some days felt light. Others felt heavy. Healing did not follow a straight path. There were memories that returned without warning. Moments of grief for a life she once imagined. But there was also curiosity again, a sense of becoming someone new. Aylin and Rayon grew closer, not by force, but by choice. Their conversations deepened. They shared stories of childhood, of failures, of dreams that once felt impossible. They laughed more now. The laughter felt earned, not borrowed. Still, life tested them. Rayan received an offer to move for work. It was an opportunity he had worked toward for years. When he told Aylin, there was no excitement in his voice, only uncertainty. She felt the familiar tightening in her chest. The fear of loss returned, sharp and sudden, but she did not panic. She had learned something important about herself. She could feel fear without letting it decide for her. "You should go," she said after a long pause. Rian looked at her, surprised. "What about us?" Aylin met his eyes. "We don't stop being honest now," she said. "Whatever we are, it has to grow freely." They did not promise forever. They promised truth. That felt stronger. The days before his departure were gentle and sad. They spent time together without urgency. Walks, conversations, quiet moments. No dramatic confessions. No desperate plans. Just presence. On the day he left, they stood at the station. People rushed past them, chasing their own futures. Rayan took a deep breath. "You changed my life," he said softly. Aylin smiled through tears. "You helped me change my own." They hugged, long and quiet. Then he was gone. The weeks that followed were difficult. Aylin felt the absence deeply. But she did not feel empty. She had learned how to sit with loneliness without fearing it. She poured herself into her work, into friendships she had neglected, into small joys she once overlooked. Messages from Rayan came occasionally, thoughtful, kind, never demanding. They shared updates, reflections, moments of doubt. Their connection shifted, matured, stretched, across distance. One evening, months later, Aylin sat by her window again, watching lights in other homes. This time, she did not wonder who she was supposed to be. She knew she was someone who chose truth, even when it hurt. Someone who listened to her heart without letting it control her. She realized then that Rayan was never meant to rescue her or complete her. He was meant to awaken her, to show her that life could feel deeper, richer, more honest. Eventually, their paths crossed again, not in the way stories usually promise. No grand reunion, just two people meeting with changed hearts and open eyes. They talked, walked, laughed, and accepted what they had become. They did not cling to what once was. They allowed what was meant to stay, and what was meant to pass. Aylin understood now that love does not always mean holding on. Sometimes it means letting go with gratitude. She had learned that the bravest thing she ever did was not falling for someone new, but choosing herself for the first time. And as she moved forward into a life still uncertain but finally her own, she carried one truth with her. Some people enter your life not to stay forever, but to change everything you thought you knew. And once that change begins, there is no turning back.